Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and this is gonna be a very special episode of CN unit analysis. I know I haven't done one for a little bit for a lot of the HR units recently because I have a lot on my plate, but now I think I really want to sit my ass down and focus on Phainon, namely for three different reasons. First of all, like I mentioned, I haven't done one for a little bit, so I kind of want to get back in and show you guys a little bit more of the additional information that we can look from the CN community. I also limit tested all of these different formulas as well as speed tuning for the past 3 hours after finishing the story. So I know that everything that has been tested so far, it worked 100% of the time, especially if you have any problems when it comes to Phainon speed tuning, which in my opinion, I think there's a lot of misconceptions, misinformation, exactly how the hell do you even use Phainon with regards to the speed tuning of the team with Sunday, with RMC, with Tingyun, Sparkle, Bronya, and because people don't really get this guy's speed tuning, it led to a very massive decrease of performance, which either resulted to people not having the optimal speed, or if you're just going to be running Phainon with a sustain, especially if that sustain is not Huo, then his performance is going to drop off quite a lot. So I hope that this video can bring you guys a little bit more of a clarity with regards to greatly improving his performance as I've tried out for myself, right? Second reason, I also feel kind of bad that for our previous $1 versus $2,000 Phainon video, even though for all of our $1 versus $2,000, the objective is not to see optimal play, the objective is more or less to see what each Eidolon increases does for its overall damage output, and we pretty much do like full auto AI for almost every single one of them to maintain consistency. But I would admit that for Phainon specifically, the difference between running AI when without AI, the full auto button, is very different. So I do want to apologize to that, and hopefully this video can make it up to you guys, and maybe you guys can take away something of a value from this specific guy over here. And last of all, I just finished up the 3.4 story. Absolute cinema. I have not slept. I cannot sleep. This guy's character arc is absolutely insane. Best story I've ever seen in a gacha game. So I really want to dedicate this video to make sure you guys that every proof of Phainon hopefully can play him to the best of the capabilities, right? So without further ado, let's just jump into this CN unit analysis. And I'm just gonna cut the crap of all of the other stuff which you guys have probably heard before, which is the builds, the light cones, whether it's teammates, yada. You want to check out all of the early access stuff I already presented you guys back before. I've already done before you proof for all of the endgame content. What are some of the restrictions, his limitations for his ultimate, what are some of the pros and cons, future teammates, etc. None of it is going to be relevant. This specific video, I really want to hone on this one singular most important thing when it comes to playing Phainon, and that is going to be his speed tuning, right? So for this specific CN unit analysis, I'm going to be bringing you guys 5 different speed tunings that you're going to be using with Phainon, with Sunday, no Sunday, Tingyun, Bronya, Sparkle, whatever it's going to be. Hopefully this video can sort of cover every single possible speed thresholds for you guys. So all the respective speeds I basically referenced from this specific CN content creator, and then I back tested and cross-referenced using my own findings, making sure each and every single one of these builds work to his intended. Every single one of the speed I've tested for the past 3 hours, every single different team, every single different speed, I've been rearranging around the relics, changing out the sets, changing this, Von Weg 2 piece, Phainon, Team with 169 speed, RMC on this speed, RMC with this 3-star icon. I've tested every single thing possible just to make sure that whatever information here is definitely gonna be reliable, right? So without further ado, let's just jump into the very first speed tuning over here today, and that is gonna be the speed tuning with RMC plus Sunday plus Bronya. So you can see over here, the specific tech that we're gonna be using here is actually gonna be running Phainon with a Von Weg 2-piece, right? The reason why we're gonna be running a Von Weg 2-piece on 121 speed, because bare minimum you need 120 speed to activate Von Weg. Second of all, you want our Phainon to outspeed our 140 speed RMC, right? So the reason why we are running 140 speed over here specifically into it, because you want a speed tuning after your very first turn to make it such that Phainon goes into our buffs, and then once Sunday pulls up Phainon and then he gets up again from Bronya, the buff from Bronya can actually lead into a very nice rotation, which I'm going to be demonstrating to you guys very momentarily, right? So these are going to be the stats, and these are going to be the signature light cones. Now I'm not going to say this is like low cost, you don't need a signature light cone, you're doing the items or whatever, but these are specific to the speed tuning portion, right? So this is going to be the speed that I actually used for the specific test myself. I ran this run and absolutely no issue whatsoever. I'll also show you guys the full run breakdown as to how his performance is going to be like against first half, not second half full A, first half true sting, and we actually cleared every single time all of the speed tunings we have done with E0 S1 Phainon, all of them within 3 cycles, most of them 2 cycles, some of them within 3 cycles. So this is going to be speed over here. 127 speed is going to be a hard requirement on 142 speed with our RMC over here, and then this is going to be running the 3-star light cone shadow burn because of this specific thing over here, which is 1 skill point, right? We really need this skill point because this team is extremely extremely skill point hungry. Even with a Sunday S1 as well as a Bronya signature Lycon, we still need the skill point, right? So I would say if you do not have access to Sunday's S1 or Bronya's S1 or even Bronya's E1, then you're gonna run into skill point issues, and I would advise at other different team cons for you guys to consider, right? So this is gonna be on Sunday on 138 speed, 92 Crazy E0 S1, then our Bronya is gonna be 134 speed over here, right? Phainon is going to be running our 2-piece Von Weg, which then results in our Phainon going first. So you can see over here in the action value order, you want to make sure that Phainon is at the bare minimum around 120-ish plus speed in order to outspeed RMC. If your RMC is too fast, Phainon actually cannot outspeed RMC, which will limit the entire team, right? So my RMC over here is actually around 140 something, so I'm showing you guys just now. As long as your Phainon can outspeed RMC, then it's going to be good to go over here, right? So we're gonna go in for our skill over here, and afterwards we can summon our Mimi, getting hit over here for 97%. Sunday is gonna immediately get our buff up over here, right? As you can see over here. Yep, we're gonna get in 100%. Notice how I did not activate my Sunday ultimate, and the reason why I did not activate my Sunday ultimate over here is because we are not transforming here immediately anyways. And if you let go of a Sunday ultimate now, you're basically wasting your buff coverage, and you actually want to stack on all 3 different supports into one so that you can get the highest possible amount of them. So I intentionally don't let go of the Sunday ultimate in order to let Mimi bring us up, get his ass to 9 set, and finally Bronya is gonna give us a Sunday over here. And at this juncture is when you can actually let go of every single one of your outs, right? So I need to first let go of a Sunday out because I ran out of skill points, so Sunday S1 is going to kick in over here, giving us the final skill point. Activate this, and always remember to activate your Bronya ultimate outside of Sunday's turn so that it can extend the buff for one more turn, so that after Phainon exits this ultimate stage, it actually lasts for a little bit more of an extra moment, right? So one very important thing to take over here is going to be here. You can see that this speed after we let go of Phainon actually outspeeds our Sunday as well as Bronya. Keep in mind, this is not going to be possible if you do not have a E2 Bronya, right? If you have a E2 Bronya, this speed tuning allows your Phainon to actually cut in front of Sunday and Bronya while running attack percentage boots, which means that you can actually get off basically 3 additional turns of Phainon to generate essentially 6 bonus core flame stacks. If you do not have a E2 Bronya, what this is going to look like is Sunday into Bronya into Phainon, which means that you are going to need to get a little bit more stacks outside from this generation in order to maintain the ultimate form, right? So at this point, you want to enter in the battle with 15 stacks regardless, activate the ultimate, activate the Mimi, and then let this battle go on as per usual to enter into our first phase, right? Now keep in mind over here, my Phainon is actually gonna be on an energy regeneration Von Weg 2-piece. So before we continue over here, this entire showcase is not to showcase whether the build is not good or not, so don't really take the cycle into consideration. But if you are gonna be running our Von Weg, you can see over here for my builds, which is gonna be this. Sorry, I'm blind, guys. It's like 7 AM. All right. Unfortunately, I do not have a single Von Weg which has a attack percentage main stat, and I'm definitely not going to be crafting a attack double crit Von Weg. So I actually just slapped on this specific Von Weg over here, energy regeneration with basically 2 rolls on crit damage, right? So do not do this on Phainon. Do not do this. If you have an attack percentage roll on Von Weg, this performance is going to be a lot better. But this is not so much to show you guys the performance in Emerald of Chaos. It is more so to show you guys the speed tuning of this entire thing, right? So just keep that into consideration. So you can see over here, our ultimate actually does very little damage, only 620k, because we are missing an entire attack percentage main stat. So on realistic situations, this should be closer to maybe 800 to 850,000, right? So that's pretty much it. And then after, we're just gonna continue on our things, let go of our ultimate. Everything in between here doesn't really matter that much because you're definitely gonna be getting enough cycles to clear off the ending content. It is not gonna be possible for us to zero cycle the first wave because the horse has absolutely a ridiculous amount of HP. It is what it is. So we are gonna just slowly make our way through to the next portion, letting go of our ultimate over here 4 stacks, and then this is gonna bring us into the next wave over here after we let go of our basic attack, right? So we are actually gonna be our very last stage of our ultimate, letting go of ultimate right on top of the true sting as well as the horse, letting this go stage 131k, then we go back into our state over here. So you can see over here, our speed tuning is such that RMC is gonna be first because we do have ourselves the highest speed in the entire team, followed by Phainon into Sunday into Bronya, and you can see over here our speed RMC is gonna already be at 75% mini set, right? So at this point, you basically just have to take the hit. It is what it is, no issues. So the goal over here is to make sure that you get into the ultimate state as fast as possible again, right? So we are already gonna be 8 out of 8 stacks. Ideally, if you wanna like probably grind a little bit more RNG, you could consider getting a little bit more aims or getting more hits on Phainon so they can still generate a little bit more cost flame stacks from the enemy mobs, right? Unfortunately, we only got hit once, so we're gonna be at 8 out of 10. So over here, you do have enough skill points at 2 out of skill points. Letting go of 1 to 282k skill. Phainon gonna get the buff from Sunday, getting buffs back in again. We are all unfortunately gonna have the basic attack over here because we do need Bronya to bring us back in order to generate a little bit more stacks for us, right? So at this point, you can see my Mimi is actually gonna be at 96%, which means it is gonna cross with Bronya, which technically leads to a little bit of an excess. But even if that is the case, it's actually completely fine because the main important thing over here is when Mimi buffs us, you can see we still gain that 1 stack of core flame. So even though you technically wasted 1 action from Phainon, it's actually irrelevant because he still gains all of the buffs, right? So as long as you gain all of the buffs, getting the stacks in and getting the buffs in is going to be the #1 priority. So even though it's a waste here, because we have so many stacks remaining, it is going to be completely fine. So we basically almost instantly enter back into our ultimate again, running this exact speed tuning setup, right? So this entire rotation is just going to repeat itself. So it's always going to be after this one, RMC first, followed by Phainon, followed by Sunday, followed by Bronya. And you can see we are already running out of skill points running this team, which is E0 S1 Sunday, as well as my Bronya already being at E6, right? So we already got all of the skill points, and we're still running out with the 3-star like on RMC. So the ironically thing is, if you are not going to be getting an E2 Bronya, so if you have an E1 Bronya, you actually have a little bit lesser skill point pressure because my very first final action will be slower than both Sunday and Bronya. And you can see, because we were so fast, also 1%, it is what it is. Because we were so fast, we actually couldn't let go of one of Phainon's skill because we actually had to use the skill points for Bronya to go back in. So even if you do not have a E2 Bronya, this team will still function as is. You basically miss out that 1 additional final action, which is not gonna be the end of the world over here. So at this point on, the battle is just gonna continue. Letting go of all of the damage, True Sting is gonna be left at our last phase over here, and you just slam go of your ultimates as soon as possible, and that's pretty much it, right? So for the True Sting specifically at this point, you do want to see, you want to make sure that after he summons these bugs over here and he goes into this enraged form, you want to cast your taunt to bring up his action so that the rest of him don't die, right? Unless you can kill him over here, which I don't think is going to be possible, you do want to cast your taunt so that he can actually let go of this enraged swarm onslaught so that your team wins, your RMC and your Sundays, they actually don't get cooked completely, right? So very important here to make sure that this run is going to be successful. So one last time, this bug is going to explode, 0 damage whatsoever, comes in with a counter, left with 57% HP, let go of the transformation. Okay, left with 43%. MOC debuff is going to pop after every single one of these bugs die. So we're going to be getting 7 stacks of vulnerability. This let's go. He's going to summon. And at this point, the only way we can lose this run is if our Sunday dies. Right? So at this point, if your Sunday do not die, you are pretty much going to be good to go. Luckily, he did not apply the wind shear. So we're going to let this go going forward a little bit more. And the rest of the run, it is pretty much going to be game over here. So over here, you can see over here, once again, we run out of skill points. Right? We run out of skill points. So even if you do not have a E2 Bronya, it's completely fine because you're still going to be using base attack over here, which means you can't even gain any stacks in the first place, right? So after this, Sunday brings us back in, and I believe our skill over here is just going to straight up kill because he has 7 stacks of vulnerability. Okay, almost killed, right? So we actually don't even need to transform into our 3rd ultimate. So by our 2nd ultimate, right before we cast our last ultimate, he is pretty much gonna get cooked over here, and that is gonna be the speed tuning for our very first set onto Phainon, right? So that's gonna be a 3-cycle dispatch on an energy regeneration road one, right? I was running this, right? If you have an attack percentage, I think it is quite possible you can get maybe a little bit better of a performance over here. All right, this is going to be the next speed tuning featuring Phainon, Sparkle, Sunday, as well as Bronya. Now, contrary to popular belief, this team is actually very easy to use as long as you make sure Sunday goes first, followed by Sparkle, followed by Bronya. That is really all you need, and you can still make sure that Phainon gains every single one of the buffs provided. Yep, you can still keep the Dream Diver buff from Sparkle over here, and this is gonna be a speed setup. For Phainon specifically, you basically don't give him any speed stacks, but once again, if you do have a E2 Bronya, you can consider giving a little bit more speed. I like the 120-ish mark just to make sure that after Bronya E2 buffs him, he can be the fastest unit in the entire team. But if you do not have E2 Bronya, it is also completely fine, no issues whatsoever. So this is gonna be the base speed Phainon. This is gonna be your 2nd action. You want to make sure that your Sparkle is slower than your Sunday, and Sunday has to be the very first guy to move, right? And then lastly, Bronya is going to be the last over here. If you do not have a E2 Bronya, just make sure that you can at least ensure 122 speed, because if you're going to be running Dungeons Dance, push up a little bit more to get the additional action if you really want so, right? And second of all, because if you do not have an E2 Bronya, you can actually consider running Sunday a lot faster. So 160 speed, 170 speed, all good to go. So you can do something like 170 Sunday into like 160-ish Sparkle into like 140, 150-ish Bronya if you wish to, right? That is if you do not have an E2 Bronya. If you have an E2 Bronya, you can just slow down everyone such that after Phainon gets the E2 Bronya speed buff, he laps the entire team, such as Phainon, Sunday, Sparkle, Bronya, right? So I'm not really gonna explain, I'm just gonna show you guys exactly how it works because I've really tested it out for myself from all of my testings over here, right? So this is going to be the team that I tested out with our Phainon, Sunday, Sparkle, as well as Bronya. You can see my Phainon over here basically has almost no speed at 115, and this 115 plus the 30% speed buff is gonna enable us to outlap our Sunday. So you do want to bring down your Sunday speed such that your Phainon can outspeed him if you have a E2 Bronya. If you do not have a E2 Bronya, this is completely irrelevant. Just make sure this Sunday is fast. So basically, Sunday is the fastest, Sparkle is the faster one, and then Bronya is the slowest out of all of the three. That is if you do not have E2, right? So we're gonna go into battle and see exactly how this team functions, assuming that I do have a E2 Bronya. Everything else is gonna be exactly the same. Let go of all of our skills, let go of all of our basic. So we are gonna let this go. This is not gonna be final on Vonwek, so we're just running him on the regular 2-piece routine arena. So you can see over here, this is gonna be a speed tuning. Sunday goes first, followed by Sparkle, followed by Bronya, and Phainon is gonna be all the way at the end, right? So the very first hit, we're just gonna get hit, no issue whatsoever. Let go of our buff from Sunday right now, pass it onto Phainon, and then afterwards we are gonna bring it back up again. Okay, this is gonna be 4 seconds back into 6. Now, this is very important. When Sparkle brings up Phainon, you can see that his turn actually does not begin. And this is exactly what we want to make this team work. Someone think it's a bad side. Okay, why are you wasting action value? It is actually completely fine because this is the only scenario in which you can make sure your Sparkle's buff, Dream Diver, can overlap with Bronya's buff itself. If your Phainon was actually too fast in this scenario such that it overspeeds Bronya, it would have made the Dream Diver buff expire when Bronya's buff takes place, right? So you want your Sparkle to bring up your Phainon and then immediately bring back up with Bronya. So in this particular juncture, you can see over here, we are going to be getting our Dream Diver, the 97% crit damage, completely no issue whatsoever, even though we already got our Sparkle's buff, which technically would have expired if our Phainon was faster than Bronya. So over here, we're going to do the exact same thing. Let go of our skill and then let go of your unit's ultimate outside of Phainon's turn so that it actually extends the buff for one more turn. So we let go of Bronya's ultimate. Me personally, I will get Bronya's ultimate a little bit faster than Sparkle because Sparkle's crit damage scaling allows us to get a little bit more here as well, right? So afterwards, Phainon activates the ultimate, slams in, and this is where you can see over here in the stat screen, he does in fact retain every single one of the buffs in... Whoa. Editor cropped out. He does include every single one of the buffs, including the Dream Diver crit damage buff from Sparkle, right? So very, very important over here. Okay, my clear is getting a little bit buggy. Essentially, that's pretty much it. The rotation gonna be every single one of the enhanced skill is gonna get the maximum benefit of 1.2 million from Sunday, Sparkle, as well as Bronya. Very, very nicely, right? So over here, we're just gonna continue on with our damage. As usual, this is not to say, can you zero cycle? Can you not zero cycle? Because I believe my damage was a little bit off here, right? I think I'm left with that. Okay, yeah, so for example, in this particular juncture, if you have enough damage, you can pretty much zero cycle the very first wave from this basic. Unfortunately, you can see from the guy just now, I'm not sure if y'all saw. Sorry. Go over here a little bit. Pause. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, you can see that the guy left with 1 HP. So because of this, we didn't get a zero cycle. But like I mentioned, this is not about zero cycling. This is just about speed tuning your Phainon and fixing your Phainon speed right here. So we are going to get a Memory of Chaos buff to clean the debuff for us. And then we're going to go into the second phase, going back in for our basic attack, letting go of our enhanced skill, dealing absolutely ridiculous amount of 1.3 million damage, 51% off over here. Then he's going to summon this goose. Now over here, you basically want to let go of your taunt so that you can actually bring up your enemy team so that your Sunday, your Sparkle, and your Bronya doesn't get as much damage from all of these buffs, all of the horses, and all of the swipes, just to reduce the survival pressure for the rest of the supports over here. And then he's gonna let go of a counter, followed by his basically his AoE big booms. Right, one of the bugs is gonna explode, and then this AoE attack is pretty much gonna take care of everything else left in the team. 1.1 million. And now you can take a look at our speed tuning. Right, our speed tuning is basically perfect because we have basically speed tuned our Phainon to be faster than our Sunday with the addition of E2 Bronya. Like I mentioned, if you do not have an E2 Bronya, completely okay. It's just gonna be something like Sunday, Sparkle, Bronya, Phainon, right? So you basically lose out this one action, which is still gonna be okay for us, right? So we are just gonna let go of this continue over here. Alright, he's gonna go back in for the spit, and then he's gonna summon the bugs, and then we're gonna tank one hit. So over here you can see our team sustain pressure actually really not that low. One important thing is for all of our supports, you do want to make sure they have at least one defensive main set, ideally HP %, so that they can actually hit at least above 4000 HP, so that the survival pressure is not gonna be as high for the rest of the team, right? So Phainon here getting a little bit low, 900 HP. Sunday brings back up our Phainon. Phainon slams back in, 1%, excellent. Now at this point over here, if you do not get your ultimate in this specific point and he actually hits Phainon, the run is going to be over. So you actually kind of want to like mitigate your damage a little bit such that you can actually let go of your ultimate so that you don't actually die. I believe I actually got cooked here. Yeah, so at this particular juncture, if you do not have a grow passive, you actually do lose over here, right? But the speed tuning is gonna be the exact same. No issues, no changes whatsoever. Just make sure that at this one particular instance, you want to make sure that all of these bars line up, so he will definitely gain back the 12 stacks without any issues whatsoever. So I'm actually gonna go for the reset over here. And then we're just gonna repeat the same things. Sorry. Alright. So you can see we're actually going to go for the reset here, and because we actually got him into phase 2, this time before activating everything else, we are going to be in a very, very safe position. Sparkle brings us up 9 stacks, Bronya brings us up 10 stacks. Finally, let go of our 2 core flames, cast our ultimate, 12 out of 12, let this go, and that's going to be it, right? If you do not have an E2 Bronya, you are going to be missing that 2 stacks, which could be a little bit annoying. You basically need to RNG get hit a little bit more, so do take that into considerations. But if you have E2 Bronya, then this is pretty much one of the better ways to speed tune your Phainon team, right? So let this go, 1.3 million, boom, 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 boom. Tons of damage. I don't really think the rest matters anymore, so that is going to be a 2-cycle clear for our Phainon, Sunday, Sparkle, as well as Bronya. This is going to be our third speed tuning, this time featuring a traditional Phainon, Robin, Sunday, and Bronya. This is in fact the teams that I've used for all of my earlier sets when I was doing a Phainon, because it's actually very, very straightforward. You essentially want to either make him such that you can outspeed Sunday and Bronya if you have a E2 Bronya, but if you cannot outspeed, then it's going to be completely fine. You do just want to play this as per usual, which is always going to be running attack percentage boost, right? So this is going to be on Phainon with our Bubbin, no speed requirements. You do want to get this on the Bronya Signature Light Cone for a little bit more energy regeneration, because specific to this team, you're actually not going to be getting that much hits. So getting a Bronya's S1 or even S5 can improve our Robin's energy ultimate uptime. And keep in mind over here, our Bubbin is also going to be on our 4-piece passerby to generate that 1 additional skill point, because you are going to be extremely skill point dependent. I actually did not run my Bronya with the 4-piece passerby, and you can see later on how our skill point is going to be a little bit of an issue, right? And everything else is going to be exactly the same. Sunday first to act, Bronya second to act. As long as you're slower than Sunday, then that's going to be completely fine. Everything else is going to be the exact same over here. So this team is honestly very straightforward, and I'm just going to show you how this plays out. So this is going to be the one with the Bronya speed as well as the Bubbin speed. Keep in mind over here, our Phainon is going to be a no speed, exact same routine, arena clear, no change. Our Sun is 137. Our Bronya over here, I actually forgot to change her EHR body to the attack body. So if you can take a look at my build, this was my Bronya when I was running it. Right, I mean, now that I changed it, right, this is gonna be attack. I was actually running this with EHR body because I was running this Bronya with our DOT team, so that's why keep in mind the damage is gonna be a little bit lower than expected because I forgot to change. But again, like I mentioned, this is not about a damage showcase. It is strictly showing you guys how speed tuning works, so you can also apply it to your own Phainon team, right? So we're just gonna go in. Everything is gonna be the exact same, nothing too much you see. Activate our Bronya skill, and then Sunday is gonna let go of our ultimate, cast our skills and everything. And then right before, the one thing to keep in mind, I'll show you guys, which is around the time when Bubbin activates her ultimate. So at this point, we're gonna be 6, 7, activate this. Save your Bronya's ultimate here, because you are not letting go of Phainon's ultimate at this specific juncture. You want to save your Bronya's ultimate after, right before he casts his own ultimates, right? So we let go of Bubbin's out here, and you can see because we do have the E2 Bronya, our Phainon is actually gonna be beyond Sunday, right? And because of this specific action, after Bubbin lets go of the out, when we cast our skill over here, it's going to be at 11 out of 12. Right after he casts his skill, then you activate Bronya's ultimate to get the exact 12 out of 12. If you do not have a E2 Bronya, then I would highly recommend considering a speed boost. Otherwise, you basically just have to let yourself get hit, or you're going to be wasting these two actions, right? So this is the biggest upside for a Bronya team, which is after you let go of a Bronya ultimate, you can essentially transform Phainon into the ultimate state while maintaining Sunday and Bronya at 0 action value. So after he transformed out of his first ultimate, he can still get back a lot of stacks almost instantly because Sunday and Bronya is right behind him, right? So that is the biggest benefit of this entire team. So I would say running speed boots only for this specific Tom, speed boots can be a consideration. Otherwise, if you have E2 Bronya, this is still gonna be the best install. So we're gonna let go of our ultimate over here, and you can see we're gonna hit 12 out of 12, maintaining our ultimate, and our Sunday and Bronya is gonna maintain at 0 action value, and then we're just gonna let go of our ultimate damage as per usual. Once again, like I mentioned, because my Robin was actually on EHR body and not on 10% body, our damage is actually gonna be a little bit low here, only 1 million. Generally speaking, you should be hitting 1.1 to 1.2 million, right? So everything else is going to be exactly the same. Once again, not the performance. I'm just going to skip through all the way towards the final end, and then he's gonna summon his bugs, and then he's gonna go for the hit, and the bug's gonna go for the hit, and we're gonna let go of our ultimate. So this is the important moment. You can see after we let go of this final blast, we instantly get back Sunday and Bronya immediately, right? Because after Babin gave us the push up, we are still maintaining our action value, and you can see we are already at 3 stacks over here. Sunday can instantly pull up our Phainon for back to 6 stacks, and then at this point is where you can see our skill point is gonna be running into a little bit of a problem, right? So this is even with a E0 S1 Sunday, and even with a E2 S1. Okay, this is gonna be E6 S1 Bronya, but everything else is irrelevant, which is why you can see running the 4-piece passerby on Babin here is gonna be of absolutely insane importance, because we actually ran out of skill points, and at this point, because we pull up our Phainon and we did not have enough skill points, we could not let go of our skill, which is extremely unfortunate. So very important for your Babin over here to actually get the additional passerby so they can maintain the 2 stacks, and at this point it would have been a 9 out of 10. So at this point we're actually gonna be a little bit of a pickle. We need to dead the hits, you know, tank everything. It is what it is, but luckily for us, because we actually deal quite a decent chunk of damage with this specific team, he's gonna be at 17% over here, and after we let go of our basic, Sunday is gonna pull us back in, so our team barely survives here. If it was a little bit unlucky and all of them hit Phainon, this run might have gone south very quickly. But luckily for us, it is not gonna be the case. I'm gonna save myself a little bit more because I want Brian to bring us up one more time, so that we can get a little bit more of a buff and a little bit more of an energy. And at this point, we can pretty much just go in for the basic, because my Sunday is going to cast his ultimate, giving us a 15 seconds, and then we're going to go back to the ultimate again, right? But all that is basically just min-maxing in preparation for the 3rd ultimate, but you definitely do not need the 3rd ultimate. I just wasted my enhanced skill here because it's basically 7 AM at this point. I'm absolutely cooked, so do use your basic, don't waste your enhanced skill over there. But you can see it is a giga overkill, and we have a lot of action remaining. From all of these, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and final transformation 7, you are definitely gonna be killing the true Swarm Sting over here, so you shouldn't really face any survival issues even if you're gonna be running this specific team, right? So we're gonna cast our taunt, bring everybody up so that he's gonna cast his big AoE attack, but at this point the run is more or less over, so I'm just gonna skip for a little bit more. Okay, let go of our enhanced skill, 70% health remaining, 1 big booms, 1.7 million, adios, and that's pretty much how we're gonna do it for a 2-cycle clear running this specific setup with Babin, right? So very straightforward. Just make sure that if you do have an E2 Bronya, you can run a Tear Boots. If you do not have an E2 Bronya, Speed Boots will have a lot of value just to get yourself the additional stacks before the Babin transformation. Alright, next team, which is gonna be our second last team. This time is gonna be the last 2 teams, no Sunday, right? So if you have no Sunday, if you're thinking of playing Phainon, this is the part of the video we're looking for. No Sunday, we're going to be running RMC, Sparkle, as well as Bronya. This time, we are going to be going for basically as fast as possible for our RMC, but you want to make sure your Sparkle with Von Weg can outspeed RMC, right? So that is the only condition. You want to make sure that after Von Weg, Sparkle goes first for the very first rotation. Then after that very first rotation, you want to make sure your RMC goes before your Sparkle. Everything else is pretty much going to be the exact same. Your Phainon can be on base speed, no speed whatsoever. You don't need to care about your Bronya either, whatever, completely irrelevant. So just make sure your RMC is going to be fast enough, as fast as possible to be rank 1, but you want to make sure your Sparkle can outspeed your RMC with a 2-piece Von Weg attach. For a Sparkle, second faster speed, but after Von Weg, she will go first, and then lastly, Bronya is going to be the third, pretty much the exact same Bronya, no changes whatsoever. So I'm just going to jump straight into the battle to show you guys how this team will work with Sparkle. So this is gonna be the team with no Sunday straight into Sparkle, sending this in, and you can see our speed tuning over here is gonna be very, very nice. Our Sparkle is gonna be 1 action value before our RMC, 44, 45 into our Bronya, so no issues. Okay, a little bit buggy over here. Bring up our Phainon instantly so that we can actually get our first 2 sets. And the main reason why you want to make sure this happens because you want to make sure Mimi gets summoned after Phainon lets go of their very, very first action. So when you summon Mimi over here and you cast your Sparkle ultimate, after getting hit from the goons, you are going to be able to get enough energy from Bronya's base attack. So you can see over here, slam this in from Bronya's base and get a hit to the perfect 100%, right? So that will give you the exact amount of energy to basically squeeze out that 1 extra turn without casting Bronya's skill, right? So Mimi is going to give us the additional support. Now we can slam this back in. You'll always let go of your skill for Phainon. You shouldn't really face any skill point issues whatsoever, so it's going to be completely fine. Now you can see our speed tuning. RMC will be going first, followed by Sparkle, followed by Bronya. So everything else will play exactly the same. Let go of this ultimate first so that you can prepare the charge for the second ultimate rotation. Let go of this base attack. If you can cast your skill over there, it's also completely fine. And then we let go of our Sparkle, bring up our Phainon. Phainon slams this back in, which is going to be 11 seconds. And finally, Bronya will then cast your skill. Again, like I mentioned, save your Bronya's ultimate after Phainon casts your skill so that the buff can last one more time, right? You usually wouldn't really cast your Bronya's second ultimate because the fight would have been over. So wasting the energy there is going to be completely okay. And then at this point, let go of your Phainon out, and then everything else can just continue from there. You can see we basically maintain all of our buffs, right? Dream Diver, everything, all of the buffs are pretty much going to be okay. Unfortunately, we are going to be missing out on Sparkle's skill buff, because we actually take place after Sparkle brings us up. So a little bit unfortunate, we're going to be missing Dream Diver, but it is less so about stacking on Dream Diver and more so on getting as much stacks as possible, right? So unfortunately, we won't be getting Sparkle's Dream Diver, but because of this rotation, you should still stay in a very, very comfortable spot such that your supports would not die, right? So that is the most important thing, making sure Phainon gets as many core flames as possible. Even if you do not have Sunday, he's still completely playable, right? So at this point, we're just going to let go of our base attack over here. Honestly, this is a little bit of a mistake. I should have casted my taunt here so I can bring up the horse just to reduce the amount of damage that my team is going to be receiving, because the horse actually does deal a little bit of a damage over here. So you can see, unfortunately, after they die, the horse does in fact aim my Sparkle. So that 1000 damage over here, I could have actually prevented it and prevented it onto Phainon instead. So it's a little bit more of a mistake on my end. Should not have done that. A little bit greedy. It is what it is. Went for the Mimi base attack. He's going to go for the swipe. 93%. Sparkle getting a little bit low over here. Luckily, this does not hit Sparkle, so it's going to be completely fine. At this point, you can see we are going to be RMC, Sparkle, Phainon, and Bronya, right? So no matter what happens, I know for a fact that your Sparkle is going to bring out and it's going to collide with our Phainon. So it is what it is. We are going to bring up our Phainon over here, and then Mimi comes in. Even though the action is wasted, the core flame is not wasted, right? So we're gonna bring up Mimi. We still gain that 1 set of core flame to give us the 12 stacks regardless, right? So it's gonna be completely fine. We then activate our Sparkle's ultimate to trigger our DDD, and then we're gonna bring up our Bronya over here. Keep in mind, at this point, when you bring up your Bronya skill, do not wait, right? This is the moment where after you cast your Bronya skill, if you were to out with Phainon immediately, you actually keep the Dream Diver buff, right? Because Phainon's turn did not begin yet, right? So extremely, extremely important. So this is where you can actually keep Sparkle's buff. As long as you cast your Bronya skill before Phainon takes an action, she can actually maintain this Dream Diver buff. No issue whatsoever. It's a little bit similar to back in the days when we were running Blade with Sparkle and Bronya. You want to make sure that before Blade goes, you can actually make use of both Sparkle and Bronya's buff at that specific moment when Blade casts his ultimate, right? Before Blade's turn begin, when he casts Blade's ultimate in between Bronya's buff and Sparkle's buff, he can maintain this 96% crit damage from Dream Diver. So it's extremely important that you do this, because if you don't, you will be missing this 96% crit damage with your Dream bring down his damage by quite a considerable amount. And at this point, you are pretty much going to be set for the final phase over here. 1.3 million, all the bars are going to die, and unfortunately it's going to be 4%, so we're going to be wasting a little bit of a basic attack over here. No issues whatsoever. So the rest of the run is going to be very, very straightforward. Let go of your enhanced skill, let go of your taunt, everything else is going to be completely fine. Like I mentioned, not so much about the damage, but more so about the speed tune. And hopefully, you can actually apply this to make your runs a little bit smoother. So we're just going to skip forward a little bit. Final boom, 3%, just nice. Right before our final action, we're gonna be able to clear this in a 2-cycle dispatch without making use of Sunday, right? So that is pretty much it. I believe I showed the speed tuning here, right? So this is gonna be the speed tuning. Phainon, exact base speed, the exact same build, 115 speed, routine arena, no change whatsoever. This is gonna be our RMC at 156 speed, running our speed set with Luxaka. Now Sparkle is at 138, but because we have Von Weg, we actually outspeed our RMC. So just make sure that with Von Weg, you want to outspeed RMC for the very first time, it's gonna be fine. Then Bronya is still gonna be 134, 2-piece kill, no changes whatsoever. If you want to run Luxaka on Bronya, that's also gonna be completely okay, right? And with that, we have come to our final speed tuning, right? Final speed tuning, this time featuring our all 3 units with RMC, Tingyun as well as Bronya. So for RMC over here, you can see she's gonna be running the 4-piece passerby with Luxaka. Everybody is on Luxaka. Both Tingyun and Bronya is gonna be on Sekritos because the buff actually do stack together. You want to make sure your Tingyun is above 168 speed with Danzan's Dance, and your Bronya is below 148 speed if you want to combine this with your E2 Bronya plus Phainon, right? If you do not have E2 Bronya, completely fine, you can ignore this statement. Otherwise, you just want to make sure that Tingyun is first, followed by RMC, followed by Bronya. And I also showcased this team before back in the early access server, but just to show you guys exactly how this plays. And yes, this team can in fact work against the True Sting as well. So this is gonna be our final speed tuning with Phainon, Tingyun, RMC as well as Bronya. Letting go of everything, Tingyun casts her Dance immediately onto Phainon. Very straightforward, nothing too much to talk about over here. Getting our attack buff onto Phainon, summon our Mimi as per usual. Now, very important thing to note is letting use of Mimi's technique. You want to make sure Mimi's technique is activated here. You do not want to get hit by the minions, because if you get hit, you are going to be wasting one of Mimi's action over here. So you can see Phainon actually can let go of his skill into a Mimi pull up immediately. If we were to not make use of Mimi's technique, RMC's technique, he's gonna hit us before Phainon, which will basically waste one Phainon action, right? So you do not want it to happen. Let this go first. Mimi bring us back in, and we now are gonna be at 9 stacks. Go back in for the slam, and then Tingyun is gonna give us a buff back into Phainon to get the 10 out of 12. And then lastly, RMC goes back in for the basic because our skill point is very tight. And as per usual, Bronya at this point is gonna bring us our Phainon, right? So you can see over here, Phainon gets all of the buffs. So then Bronya brings up Phainon, casts the ultimate, Phainon then casts into his own ultimate. Very straightforward. And so the rest of the team is gonna play as per usual. Not too much of a damage because unfortunately I did not stack on enough crit rate, which you should be stacking on if you're not going to be running Sunday. So at this point, my Phainon is actually, I believe, on only... I think it's on like what, 90% crit rate, 85% crit rate, not to remember, but basically not 100%, so it's not too ideal. I actually missed a little bit of a crit over here. Everything else is gonna be exactly the same, so we're just gonna jump over a little bit, right? Letting go of the damage, boom. Casting this into the True Sting, right? So at this point, we let go of our final hit from the ultimate, and we're gonna take into the rotation on how the second ultimate is gonna look like, right? So the second ultimate is where your Tingyun wants to let go of this basic onto True Sting, but very important thing, you do not want to activate Dance here. So what is gonna happen is if you activate Tingyun's Dance at this specific moment, your Phainon is gonna get outsped by your Bronya. Right, so you do not want that to happen. You do want to make sure that your Mimi is gonna let go of our skill here, right? Because if you do not want to gamble, just let go of your skill, right? It's okay. You still have enough skill points. 100% bring up your Phainon. Phainon then lets go of our skill. And then after you let go of your skill, that is when you can use Tingyun's ultimate, right? Just to make sure that you do not get outside, because the action value, if your speed difference are too much, DD is actually going to be counterintuitive. So at this point, Bronya brings up, unfortunately, we missed the 50-50, so we did not get a skill points. It is what it is. We just have to rely on ourselves getting hit over here. Okay, we do get hit and then we cast the ultimate, right? So if you do get enough skill points over there, then you can definitely cast enough, right? So very important over here for skill point management. If you do not want to gamble with that, basically just don't use your RMC skill, just use the RMC's basic attack, and then you can just get hit and you're still going to continue as per usual. So this is where you enter into the second phase of ultimate without really taking that much damage for the rest of the team, and everything else is just going to be as per usual. Boom. We are still going to be letting this go, and we are pretty much going to finish off this True Sting at our very last action, right? We're going to cast our taunts, preventing ourselves getting hit, and then we're going to let go of this final out. So this is where it gets a little bit dicey, because we actually do not have enough damage to kill him by the second ultimate, right? So this will be the most dangerous part of Phainon. If you are going to be getting hit over here, it is going to be the biggest risk of making a run fail, right? Because between your second ultimate and your third ultimate, you actually have a very very big opportunity where you're going to be losing damage because you're quite far off away from 12 stacks, right? So at this point, you just have to pray, right? So you're just going as per usual because you basically need to save a little bit of a skill points to make sure that your Phainon can cast a skill, your Brian can cast a skill. So just take it, pray, right? It's a little bit of a gamble. It is what it is. It's going to be a full free unit. If you cannot get this specific run, basically just go for the reset. So we're just going to be going over here, going for the basic attack. Sorry, going for the skill, casting this Mimi, bringing back up into Phainon. Luckily for us, because this is only be like 7% health, we are able to kill this without making use of our next ultimate, right? So in the future, if you are going to be up against a boss that is going to have higher HP, that is when this formula might be a lot riskier and you might need to run a sustain because that's when you actually need to wait for the 12 stacks again in order to get into the next ultimate. Luckily for us, we actually deal enough damage for this specific juncture so we can still get rid of this entire enemy within 3 cycle dispatch for Phainon, right? So, yep, that is pretty much every single one of the different speed tunings that I have required for this entire guide. I think this has been a very interesting CN analysis. Huge shout out to this video. I think it was very insightful, and of course, I tested out every single one of the builds myself to make sure that you guys can actually get the best possible results, right? So hopefully this has been helpful. Once again, I do apologize for the $1 versus $2,000 where we use the full farm button. In the future, especially for units like Phainon, where he is very reliant on your manual gameplay, I'll definitely be using my own gameplay so that you can get a little bit more of a representation, right? So that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video has been helpful. Let me know what guys in the comments below. Word of this is gonna be speed. It's currently 7:24 a.m. I'm gonna go to bed. Join this, join this, blah blah blah. Cooked. Bye bye. I love Phainon. Hell, you before.